History of drug abuse. The Holy Bible is a very reliable source in tracing the early use and abuse of narcotics. Means, ang Holy Bible daw is napaka-reliable source para matrace yung mga maagang gumagamit ng narcotics or drug. The Book of Judges of the Old Testament revealed that the mighty Samson was put to sleep by Delilah by means of a drug blaze wine before cutting his hair, the source of his strength, and subsequently gouge his eyes before the festing Philippines, already high-spirited with narcotics mixed with intoxicants. Yung aklat daw ng mga Old Testament ay nagsiwalat na ang makapangyarihan na si Samson ay pinatulog si Delilah sa pamamagitan ng isang alak na nilagyan ng droga bago gupitin ang kanyang buhok, na pinagmumulan ng kanyang lakas at pagkatapos ay dinukit niya yung kanyang mga mata sa harap ng mga nagpepiyesta ng mga Philippines. And yung high-spirited, yung parang mga aning na sila, ganon. There are also many allusions of drug abuse in the old cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, which might have led to the widespread adultery, bestiality, and incest. Marami ring allusion na pag-abuso sa mga droga sa mga old cities of Sodom and Gomorrah na maaaring humantong sa laganap na bestiality and incest. Yung bestiality daw, ang ibig sabihin daw nun is interest with animals, and yung incest is sexual relationship between people who cannot legally. Next. Yan. Yung ancient Greek and Roman literature likewise are replete with stories alluding to drug abuse, as in the lamentable and tragic romance of Mark Antony and Cleopatra. Yung mga ancient Greek and Roman literature daw ay punong-puno ng mga kwentong tumutukoy sa pag-abuso sa droga. Tulad ng yung kalunos-lunos na pag-iibigan ni na Mark Antony and Cleopatra. And Cleopatra, in desperation over her dispraised love, drank narcotic-laden wine before allowing herself to be beaten to death by a poisonous asp from the river Nile. Even in the practice of oracles and black magic during the Roman ancient times were believed to be accomplished by narcotics. Yung si Cleopatra daw sa kanyang desperation sa kanyang dispraise na pag-ibig ay uminom ng isang narcotic-laden na alak bago niya pahintulutan ng kanyang sarili na makagat ng isang makambandag na asp o kaya yung cobra mula sa ilog. Yun. Tapos maging sa pagsasagawa ng mga oracles and black magic during the Roman ancient times were believed to be accomplished by narcotics. Yun po.
History of drug abuse. Historians credited that marijuana, cannabis sativa, is the world's oldest cultivated plant started by the Incas of Peru. Peruvian and Mexican Incas have also common practice to use the coca leaves during religious offering ceremonies. It was also known as that marijuana was sacred tree. Para pong ginagawang isang ceremonial practices ang paggamit ng marijuana kasi po ay parang nagbibigay sa kanila ng kagandahan ng pakiramdam. At nung Assyrians being used during religious rituals some 9,000 years BC, the use of marijuana is also deeply ingrained in culture of many countries such as India, Jamaica, Morocco, Nepal, Mexico, and Peru. Ayun nga, talagang matagal na tong paggamit nila noon. 9,000 years before Christ pa. The first reference of introduction was northern Iran as an intoxicant, and from there to spread out throughout the India by the Hindus used for religious rituals. Ginagamit daw po ito sa mga belief nila sa religion. Ito po ay source of happiness and laughter. Source ng kaligayahan. The word hashish, resin of the marijuana plant, was derived from the name Hassan or Hashasin, the Muslim cult leader who fed his disciples as preparation made from the resin of female hemp plant as a reward for the successful activities in assassination. Para pong ginagawang reward yung pagbigay ng marijuana sa mission reward pagka matagumpay na ang kanyang assassination assignment. Ayun po.
American Indians are to believe to use not the only stimulant tobacco, but also opium in their peace pipes in order to necrotize an oppositionist to their common objective. Knowledge on the opium poppy plants or Papaver somnitarum goes back about 7,000 years BC, cultivated and prepared by Sumerians. Even the ancient Greek physician Hippocrates, the father of medicines, prescribed the juice of the white poppy plants as early as 5000 BC in the beliefs that cured many illnesses, both in the internal and external use. The plant was harvested in Mesopotamia, and its use spreads throughout the neighboring Mediterranean area, then to Asia. From there, it was introduced to Persia, India, and China by the Arab caravans. Opium used the China steamed out from the India and became widespread in the 19th century. From Middle East, the plant was cultivated in India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan 5 centuries later. On opium trade between China and Portuguese merchants became a lucrative business. The British took over the trade from the Portuguese and established the trade monopoly throughout the British East Indies Company. Before opium became a trend in China and Portugal, it became a popular medicine way back 7,000 years BC in the Sumerians. Even the Greek, they believed that it has a cure. It had cure in many illness, both internal and external body. American Indians are also not just using stimulant tobacco, but also opium because of the effect of being awake, alert, energetic. For them, it's legal to use.
In an attempt to stop the extremely high rate of opium addiction in China, Emperor Yung Chen prohibited the smoking of opium and attempted to close ports for its importation. This triggered the Opium War of 1840, which induced China to accept the British-sponsored opium trade and forced to sign a treaty permitting the importation of opium into China after her defeat. Sinubukang Sinubukang ipahinto ang pagtaas ng opium addiction sa China. Pinagbawal ni Emperor Yung Chen ang paninigarilyo ng opium at sinubukang isara ang mga daungan na nag-aangkat nito. Tapos noon, nagkaroon ng opium war noong 1840 na nag-udyok sa China na tanggapin ang importasyon ng opium na galing sa Britanya pagkatapos nilang matalo. Next po. It was in 1806 that a German pharmacist in the name of Friedrich W. Sertner discovered morphine, the first derivative of opium. He called this new drug as morphium and later changes to morphine. After the Greek god of dream, Morpheus, this is the first attempt to cure opium addiction. But morphine addictive properties came to prominence during the American Civil War, was numbers of American soldiers become addicted to drug. So much so that morphine addiction became known as soldier disease. Noong 1806 ay may natuklasang gamot si Friedrich Sertner na tinatawag na morphine upang gamutin ang pagka-addict sa opium. Subalit, napakaraming sundalo ang na-addict dito kaya tinawag itong soldier's disease.
I will be discussing the second attempt of treating opium and morphine addiction. Morphine is an opioid agonist used for the relief of moderate or severe acute and chronic pain. Going back to the topic, a British chemist named Alder Wright discovered the so-called miracle drug, which is heroin. It was called heroin due to its impressive power and because it can also cure both opium and morphine addiction. And now, there is also called codeine, which is the third derivative of opium. When we say derivative, it is based on another source. Codeine was discovered in France while in the process on the other drugs that could cure heroin, opium, and morphine addiction. But unfortunately, it ended on a tragic result, but nowadays, it is widely used as an ingredient in most cough syrup. And lastly, the main and greatest influence of modern medical practice today were based on drug abuse in the history of man. Physicians also consider narcotics as a most effective pain reliever.
History of drug abuse and addiction in the Philippines. Very little known about drugs in the Philippines during the pre-Spanish era. The intoxicants and stimulants used by the early Filipinos were fermented alcoholic beverages and the masticatory preparation known as nganga in vernacular. Narcotics, including marijuana, were not in the list of vices in the country at that time. The opium poppy plant and the coca bush were absent in the Philippine vegetation prior to 1521. So, noong pre-Spanish, kaunti pa lang yung nalalaman na droga sa Pilipinas at ang mga nakakalasing at pampasigla na ginamit sa ng mga sinaunang Pilipino ay mga inuming nakakalasing at ang mga paghanda sa masticatory na kilala bilang nganga sa katutubong wika. So, yung mga narcotics, kabilang ang mga marijuana ay wala pa sa listahan o bisyo noong unang panahong pre-Spanish. Ang opium poppy plant at ang coca bush ay wala sa mga halaman ng Pilipinas bago ang 1521. So, yung nganga or fermented alcohol is yun po ay ginagamit upang gawing therapy sa mga gamot po katulad po ng gamot sa mga ubo, sa mga pagdulot ng anesthesia. Gayon pa man po yung mga nakakahumaling na sangkap, pagka po mali po yung paggamit, ginagawa po nilang smoke or sinisinghot o kaya po tinuturok po. Tas yung opium poppy and coco bush, ang poppy plant po ay gumagawa ng opium, isang makapangyarihang narcotic na ang mga derivatives ay kinabibilingan ng mga morphine, heroin, yun po. Ang terminong narcotic po ay tumutukoy sa opio o mga derivatives ng opium at ang mga semi-synthetic na kapalit nito. Ang mga narcotics ay ginagamit na pang-therapy o panggamutin ang mga sakit. Yun nga po, gaya po na sinabi ko sa mga obo. Yung coca bush po, ang scientific name po niya is Erythroxylum coca. Yun po yung scientific name ng coca bush. Yung coca bush po is mabilis tumubo sa mga malalamig na lugar po. Isang nakaka-addict din po na gamot na proseso sa mga laboratorio upang gawing cocaine po yung coca.
Yan na yung kay present. Yan na yung ipe-present ngayon. Sige. During the Spanish era, drug control laws prohibited the use of opium by the native Filipinos and other people except the Chinese. So, nung panahon daw na yon, pinagbabawal yung paggamit ng opium sa mga Pilipino at sa ibang tao maliban sa mga Chinese. Chinese residents in the Philippines, particularly in Manila and of the more distant Chinese areas or the ghettos, started smoking opium in 1780. So yung mga Chinese residents daw, lalo na yung mga nakatira sa Manila, nagsimula ng gumamit ng paninigarilyo gamit ang opio noong panahong 1780. As a vice, it was not widespread and was particularly accepted and tolerated by the authorities. Nung mga panahon daw yon, ito legal at hindi hinuhuli ng mga otoridad. In 1844, the Spanish colonial government laid down an opium monopoly, which entitled the importation by the Spanish government and its sale to the Chinese users. Nung mga panahon din daw pong yun, nag-i-import na yung Spanish government at pinapagbenta nila sa mga Chinese na gumagamit yung opium. At this period, opium smoking became widespread among Chinese as its use was forbidden for Indians, mestizos, and the Filipinos. Nung mga panahon din daw po yon, lumaganap na yung paggamit ng opium. At ito ay pinagbabawal pa din po sa mga Pilipino at ibang tao, maliban lamang po sa mga Chinese. This compromise policy lasted up to 1896, a period of revolt and insurrection. Itong polisiya daw po na ito ay tumagal hanggang 1896. Next slide po. Spanish era. Ito po yung summary ng Spanish era. Ang opium daw po ay prohibited o pinagbabawal sa mga Pilipino at ibang tao maliban sa mga Chinese. Noong 780 po, Chinese pariahs or the Gatos started smoking opium. At noong 1844 po, yung opium monopoly. Next slide. Opium poppy. It was first harvested in Mesopotamia. It was cultivated and prepared by Sumerians to cure the illness. It was the idea of the father of the medicine, also known as the Greek physician Hippocrates. Opium used in China was stemmed out from India and became widespread in the 19th century. Yung paggamit daw po ng opio sa China ay lumagana po sa India hanggang sa kumalat na po ito sa napakadaming lugar hanggang noong 19th century. Yun lang po.
The Americans took over the rule and they confront the issue of opium smoking. Kaya dito nakapag-conduct sila ng survey at dito na-discover nila yung mga Chinese yung nagpapalaganap ng paggamit ng smoke opium. Noong 1906, the partial legislation allowed Chinese na magpatuloy na gumamit ng opium with a fee of 5 pesos. Pero limited lang. Hanggang sa dumating ang mga Japanese, naging total ban na ang opium at dahil doon naging lowest rate of opium addicts ang Asia. Next po. Americans, partial legislation allowed Chinese addicts to obtain a license to use opium in their homes. Ayun nga, yun yung sabi ko na yung partial legislation ay inallowed yung mga Chinese pero may bayad lang na 5 pesos. Total ban continue until Japanese occupation. 1946, which point all supplies of opium were cut off from the country. Yun lang.
In 1953, Republic Act number 953 was enacted, which provided for the registration of collection and the imposition of fixed and special taxes upon all persons who produce, import, manufacture, compound, deal in, dispense, sell, distribute, or give away opium, marijuana, opium poppies, or coca leaves, or any synthetic drugs which may declare as habit forming. The law also declared as a matter of national policy the provision of the cultivation of marijuana and opium poppy. Sinasabi dito noong 1953, ang Republic Act number 953 ay pinagtibay para sa pagpapataw ng mga espesyal na buwis sa lahat ng gumagawa o nag-aangkat ng mga synthetic o synthetikong gamot. Sa klaw din ng batas na to ang pagbabawas sa pagtatanim ng marijuana at opium poppy. Sometimes, in 1955, the marijuana plant was introduced in Pasay City by foreigners for purpose of producing reefers. Taong 1955 naman nang gawin ng mga dayuhan sa Pasay City ang planta ng marijuana na may layunin ang pagpaparami o tinatawag na reefers. These were sold in taverns in Pasay City and introduced in elite school in the same area. The PC Criminal Investigation on January 8, 1959 conducted the first marijuana raid in Pasay City when several potted marijuana plants were seized. At noong January 8, 1959, na mangyari ang pagre-raid ng mga taga-PC Criminal Investigation kung saan nasabat ang mga high-end na marijuana o kush. Yun lang.
Ayun, kasama to nung sa'yo. Recognizing the deleterious effect of drug abuse on the health and well-being of the Filipino youth and the threat that it poses to national security. President Ferdinand Marcos. So this year, dito na na-recognize or nakita yung masamang effect ng drugs at kung paano yung epekto ng drugs sa health at saka sa well-being ng mga kabataan at dito rin nagkaroon ng threat sa ating national security. So in order to curb incidents of drug addiction, the Congress of the Philippines enacted Republic Act number 6425, or also known as the Dangerous Drug Act of 1972. Then President Ferdinand Marcos signed into law Republic Act number 6425. So on March 30, 1972, dito na nag-sign si Ferdinand Marcos para mapatupad yung Republic Act number 6425, or also known as Dangerous Drug Act of 1972. This law, which was amended by Presidential Decree number 44, dated November 9, 1972, placed under control not only narcotics but also psychotropic substances. So yung Dangerous Drug Act of 1972 daw ay nagkaroon siya ng minor changes or revised by the Presidential Decree number 44. So parang dito sa Republic Act na to, hindi lang mga drugs yung naging sakop niya. Also the narcotics and the psychotropic substances. So yung psychotropic substances, included dito yung mga alcohol, caffeine, nicotine, marijuana, and certain pain medicines. Then the Dangerous Drug Board was organized to provide leadership, direction, and coordination in the effective implementation of RA 6425. So si President Marcos, siya yung nag-organize nung Dangerous Drug Board. It's under the Office of the President. So dito sa Dangerous Drug Board, dito pumapasok yung mga programs relating sa drug prevention. The Dangerous Drug Board was mandated to be the policy making and coordinating agency as well as the National Clearinghouse on all matters pertaining to law enforcement and control of dangerous drugs and treatment and rehabilitation of offenders, drug abuse prevention, training and information, research and statistics on the drug problem, and the training of personnel engaged in this activity. So yung Dangerous Drug Board daw, ito yung sila yung mga nag-organize or nagpapatupad ng mga programs para dun sa mga drug abuser and drug user. So by early 1974, addiction to opiates and barbiturates had almost disappeared among the native population. So by early 1974 daw, halos wala na yung halos nag-disappear na daw yung addiction sa opiates and barbiturates. So during the period 1975 to 1980, the cultivation of marijuana increased and became geographically widespread. So during 1975 to 1980, dito na yung year na tumaas or mas dumami yung or mas nag-increase yung pag-spread ng marijuana. So ano na siya, worldwide na siya. And then thus the pattern of drug taking involved marijuana, abuse of pharmaceutical products, especially the cough syrup and the inhalation solvent. So dito pumapasok na din yung yung pagiging abusive when it comes sa mga pharmaceutical and inhalation of solvent. So yung inhaling of solvent, meron siyang negative effect. The inhaling of some solvent can cause hearing loss, limb spasm, and damage to the central nervous system and brain. And there was very little trafficking of heroin, cocaine, and LSD, and the non-availability of narcotic drugs made the prices soar beyond the reach of Filipino drug abusing. So during this year, medyo bababa yung trade ng mga illegal substances like heroin, cocaine, and LSD kasi ito na yung year na medyo mataas na yung prices ng mga illegal substances. So hindi na siya ma-afford ng mga Filipino drug abuser.